So it seems we're on time. Probably, I think we can start and then we can have folks joining in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Let's.
Yeah. Okay. So Anoop, Saleh, Ronnie, I see you guys have joined us, and I want to say hello and welcome to Value Selling's forecasting checklist to close the quarter and year webinar. I know that this is a very important topic, and Rishi has picked the right one. I am your host, Rita Sabnani. I am the VP of Sales for APAC, and I'm based in Singapore, and I work with Value Selling Associates. If you haven't joined us before, we want to say a big thank you for spending time with us. I'm going to get going here. You would see a slide later with where you can engage with us. We always love hearing from you and engaging with you, so do follow us. And today you're going to have so many tips you're going to want to share on your social media as well as with your network. I would like to remind all of you that we're recording this webinar, and that if you have registered, you're definitely going to receive an email follow-up with a link to the recording. I would encourage you to use the Q&A box. We love engagement, and we're going to answer questions during and after. And if somehow we run out of time, don't worry, put those questions in, because we will follow up with you via email afterwards. So let's get started. We're here to talk about forecasting and closing the quarter and year. Get your pens, paper, digital notepads ready, because I promise you, at the end of our time together, you're going to have a list of actions you're going to want to take with your pipeline. So let's get started, and let me tell you about our speaker, Rishi. He has walked in your shoes. Meaning he's held a bag. He's been a sales contributor. He's been a sales leader. I don't know if you've checked out his bio on LinkedIn, but he's been there. He knows what it means to deliver the goods. Rishi, I think you should start. Let's do this.
Thank you, Rita. Really appreciate the warm welcome. Welcome, everyone. Really appreciate you spending time today on an important topic. That's what Anoop was highlighting. Either it's Q4 or Q1 for majority of us, but we all know the relevance of either finishing strong or starting strong. So the topic is really, really relevant. In the next 35-40 minutes, I'm going to ensure that I share you with some of the proven best practices, some of the success stories which have been there, and at the same time, I'm also going to ensure that I share with you my personal experiences, which has always helped me to finish either the quarter on a high or starting the year on a high itself. So let's ensure that it's kind of an informative session for every one of us, and we are walking in with some new tips, some new learnings for us and our teams, in case you have other teams working for you. One of the questions I always been intrigued with, whether the closure is dependent or the forecast predictability is a parameter of skill or a process. While to me, it's a combination of both skill and process, but I generally don't get into an argument that there is a lack of skill in the account executive, because of which he is not in a position to close the quarter or a year on a high, or he doesn't have the guts to go in front of his clients and ask for the business. To me, there has to be something which has to be linked with the sales process, which is right in the beginning. And in case you're following those things in a very methodological manner, you will always ensure that you are finishing the year definitely on a much better stream, which is there. So as I said, I definitely want this session to be participative and engaging. So why don't you guys open your chat boxes and share back with me what percentage of well-qualified opportunities actually close So as per you, what is that number which is there? So in case you can just chat it back to me and Rita, so we can definitely pick it from there itself. So guys, in case you can just open your chat windows and share back what is that percentage. So I think that will be great. 40% by Anirudh, Rama, 20% by you. Good to see you around. Someone else, what that number is? And I'm looking into my iPad to ensure that whatever the responses you guys are putting across, I'm just looking into that. So guys, you guys are kind of, I'll say, close enough is saying 20%. So let me share the numbers with you. So as per Forrester, it's 43%. 43% is the number which is there when it comes down to closing the opportunities, which is there. Now, there's one caveat to this, guys, as the caveat which is here is that these are the opportunities whichever closes. When I say these are the opportunities whichever closes, is that these are the only opportunities which either closes the current quarter, the subsequent quarter, or 6 months or 9 months down the line. Probably in case I'm an account executive, it's always going to give me those goosebumps that in case I have forecasted 4 opportunities, only 1 opportunity or 2 opportunities are going to close. So at best, I think in the given quarter, the maximum could be 25 to 30% of the opportunities which closes down. Okay. Moving ahead is top challenges at quarter end. Probably, I think I want you guys just to think aloud. What are the top objections, challenges which you have been hearing from your prospects or you have been personally experienced in the past? I think something which has always been becoming a bottleneck for you. And in case you could just think of and hold on for a sec, and I'm not requesting you to put into the chat, I would have loved for that. But I'm going to share that, what that looks like for you. And I'm sure you would be agreeing with me. Some of you have worked with me in the past, so you can just always look into that. So these are the statements which I want you to read it and think aloud if this is what you have been hearing about when you are talking to your prospects in the past. So guys, I think I definitely agree in all these statements. Probably, I think I would have heard of so many of these. I think the first one is the best to me. Oh, we weren't just waiting on the contract. I sent it over. And believe me, sometimes this wait is endless. When I say the wait is endless, the wait generally is endless. I have seen some of the opportunities which we are thinking closing as of last night. We are not getting the paperwork even 2 quarters down the line. Or everything, the 4th point, all looks good, just trying to figure out who ultimately needs to sign due to the order size. Or the 5th one, I have emailed, called, texted my key contact and she is not getting back to me. Probably, I think this is something I would have personally experienced so many times, that you are chasing towards the end of the quarter, why the opportunity is not coming into play. And these are some of those statements which, when I discussed with my peers, my colleagues in the industry, they came out with some of these references. And to me, the bigger challenge lies, guys, is somewhere more towards in the complete sales cycle, in the complete sales process, which we have been trying to follow. And from a value selling parlance, the gaps always could be some of these words which just came up in the red. There could be a gap because of power of planning. There could be a gap because of the competitive differentiation, that you're not in a position to competitively differentiate your proposition, or you're not into position to connect the dots with the business issues and the plan piece, which is so critical in the value selling complete process, which is there. You pick any methodology, sales methodology, some of these elements always come pretty strong over there. So which means there is a gap which is existing, because of which the opportunities are not closing. And that's what you have been hearing from your clients. Okay, I'm going to share a small poll with you, a single pointer. What end of the quarter feels like? There are 4 options for you to pick into. And in case you can fill that for me. So let's understand what it looks like. Here comes the poll for you. So in case you can just confirm back what it looks like. and submit your responses back, and I'll ensure that I submit back to you. So bang on. I'm again waiting for a few other responses coming into play. Perfect. So let me share the responses back with you. So guys, here is what you guys have shared with me, and I think we are not far away. Majority of us are sitting could have been better or apprehensive. And I'm sure someone is there who's really excited to finish the quarter on a really, really high. That's a good feeling to be there. But we are right, we are either apprehensive or we are in a really, really excited, or I'll say more in the anxiety kind of a mode when it comes down to quarter closure. And this is generally what we all feel like. You're exhausted, you're given your best, the anxiety really runs high. And on top of that, a punch comes either from your manager or the punch comes from the client when he has committed and he's not closing on the opportunity. And many a times when I'm talking and discussing with majority of my account executives, what is the reason for this, why the anxiety levels runs very, very high. One point I always listen, one point I always coming back to me that Rishi, look, clients are really, really smart. They really know that in case they are pushing the opportunities towards quarter closure, they're going to get better discounts. And I'm sure that all of us are on the call today that can vouch for this statement, that in case you're pushing towards quarter end, you're going to get a better discount. And the clients are really well educated. My bigger challenge is who is educating our clients that they are going to get a better deal in case they're going to push it towards the quarter. I think the responsibility lies with us. Unfortunately, we are creating that bear trap and then falling into that bear trap towards quarter end and doing all kind of, which I always call unnatural things, which are so important. Unfortunately, to ensure that you're closing the quarter, and those are natural things. I think the first thing is dropping the prices and leaving the money onto the table itself. That is so bad. To me, there is nothing at all magical about a quarter end. Everything depends upon you, everything depends upon us to ensure that we are creating that super sense of urgency, that we are not pushing those deals towards quarter end. And I think some of you would have worked with me. You have always heard from me the relevance of sense of urgency. And that is one of the traits I've always looked into when I'm hiring someone, that how strong you have led with that super sense of urgency. And Anup has worked with me for many quarters, for many years, and Anup can vouch for that. Some of the best people in our team never ever ensure that they are going to the finish line at least 20-25 days in advance. They have been hitting their numbers and quota. So guys, sense of urgency stands with us. Nothing magical about the quarter. In case you really need to understand, go back internally and check back with your finance teams, procurement teams, that what happens. Are they pushing everything towards the quarter? The answer is going to be no. They are buying throughout the quarter. That's really important for them because there are certain deadlines, there are certain KPIs to be met, and they cannot afford to push the deals towards quarter. Maybe there's a higher percentage of deals getting closure towards quarter, but that's not always the case. So guys, ensure that you lead with super sense of urgency and create that. And that's what we're going to learn in the subsequent slides. Before we start, I definitely want every one of you to think of those 2 or 3 opportunities which are part of your pipeline, which you're so gung-ho to ensure that you're closing now. And when you're going through this presentation, I definitely want every one of you to think of some of those gaps which are going to get identified when you're going to share some of the best practices and how you have to approach your opportunities. To me, there is sufficient amount of time. You need to ensure that you're focusing your energies in the right direction so that you're not getting lost in between. So ensure that when you're going to now listen to the next few slides, you have those 2 or 3 opportunities in your top of your mind and you're trying to connect the dots together. Okay. Moving ahead, guys, before I share the secret sauce, I don't know whether it's a secret sauce, but definitely some of the proven best practices. I definitely want you to look through the value buying process. That is something, the core or the platform on which value selling as an organization, one of the most famous methodologies which has been existing for the last 30 plus years, been existing in the framework, to look into and understand what value buying process is. Now let's look into something, an important decision which you would have taken of late. That important decision could be that you have bought a house, you're expecting a child coming into play, the house is small, it's cramped, you have in-laws coming into play, you don't have space for them, or the house is not in the right district where you want your house to be. Or it could be as good as you have purchased a vehicle, a car, and could be for various reasons. It's a smaller car for you, or it's not serving the purpose which you wanted. The fuel prices are going up the roof itself. It's an electronic vehicle which you have purchased off fleet. Something which is critical, something which is urgent, something which has pushed you to change now is the value buying process in our parlance. What we're trying to do, we're trying to solve certain problems. As I said, that in case it's a house, it's a smaller house, it's not in the school district around, or you're looking forward to buy, you have bought a new car, you're buying a car because the car is small, the fuel price is going up the roof, the lockdown is going to open now almost after 2 years duration. You have to drive 1 hour in the morning, coming back in the afternoon. So it's something which is solving those problems. And when you're trying to solve those problems, you would have solutions coming into play. You would have options to pick out of those solutions, out of all the 5 or 6 houses which you would have shortlisted, or cars which you have shortlisted, which is going to solve those problems for you. But I think the key lies upon that one house or car which you're going to buy, because that is going to solve more problems for you. That is going to lead you with the best out of the lot, and that is what we call the differentiated vision match, which is here, which is we call it a VMD, or vision differentiated match, which is there for us. And when you take a decision, when you buy something, when you're going to take a decision, investing some amount and stuff, you always think, is it really worth it? Is it really worth the cost? Is it really worth the efforts which you are going to put into play? Guys, at the end of the day, we are humans. We take decisions either based on logical reasons, which to me is the business value, or emotional reasons, which is to me is a personal value, which comes down here. And when I say logical reasons, definitely end of the day, whatever money you're spending, the returns needs to be much higher than that. Or emotional reasons, or personal reasons, in case you are really a great fan of cars, you say everything is looking good. Rishi, end of the day, I really like something which is a high speed car, because speed is something which gives me a passion. Or let's say that 5 houses which I shortlisted, I'm going to pick this one house and I'm going to give a premium of 15%, because end of the day, I want to get associated with, let's say, DLF, or let's say Shobha as a brand, which is the most brands. My father always wanted to have a property with some of these brands, and I'm going to pay more than 15% premium to get a property in this brand. So that is something which is a personal value to me. And guys, we all have relationships. We stay in relationship. Whenever we want to take a decision, beyond us, we have other stakeholders. My spouse is there, my parents, my in-laws, my that best friend who I always look up to, because I know that he's a subject matter expert. In case he's going to recommend me this thing, it's always going to be so true. And once we have taken beyond that decision, there is a planning aspect come into play. Well, everything looks good, the salesperson has sold me that car, but till the time I'm taking a test drive, I'm not going to take this. Or I'm looking something on the outside, what happens post I've taken a decision, how the service is going to look like, how the maintenance is going to look like. So there's so many different parameters, guys, which come over there. That is what is the planning piece. When I buy a house, what happens post that? how much amount of money which I have to spend into the interiors, when I'm going to get the best thing, the way I'm looking forward for, do I need to pay maintenance, what all those factors come into play. And when you go back and look into a corporate world, that is how exactly the business decision is taken into. There is something which is at the top which the organization wants to change, which is forcing them to change now. That is because there are certain problems, they get into the solutions, they pick one of the best solutions which clearly differentiates from the competition. There's a value which the organization is going to drive right here. Beyond the person we are in touch with, there are other stakeholders, right from legal to procurement to anyone and everyone. There are technical committees, there are procurement committees who comes into play to take a decision. And then there's a planning piece. Everything is looking good, but technically we are rated as T1. What next from here on? Till the time we get paperwork in hand, and till the time we really get the value which we are looking to realize. So guys, everything happens in the similar way in the value buying process. And imagine what, when I have taken all the things, all the decisions, all ticks in the boxes, and I go back to my wife and say that, look, I've done my research, this is the best car I'm going to buy. And she's going to put across few questions back to me. And in case I'm not in a position to justify to her or give answers to her, imagine what happens. The decision never happens. And that's what exactly happened with me a few quarters back. We wanted to buy a bigger car, and she asked me, why do you think it's really worth it? Why we are spending so much? Why can't we exist with the same thing? Exactly same thing happens in the corporate world. When a boss's boss is going to ask you, why this, why not this solution, why can't we exist with the current solution, what's this going to bring onto the table itself, is everyone on board? Believe me, the decision is curtailed. The reason I took time to explain this complete buying process to you guys is that I want you to think of these 6 boxes, all the opportunities which you have in front of you. You need to ensure that you are taking and thinking through your mind, is there a gap somewhere in between? And that is what is the crux and the platform of the complete value buying process. Now, moving ahead, coming to the secret sauce or the proven best practices, which I want you to think when you're now thinking about your opportunities. The first and the foremost important thing is, are we at par? Do we understand who the power is? To me, the power is someone who has authority and access to funds. And as I shared with you, in any organization, there are multiple stakeholders. And sometimes I really get intrigued when I check with some of the account executives and check, have you got to the power? You understand who's the power? And for some reasons, they don't want to go to the power. They're talking to, let's say, a head of IT or CIO or CTO, because many of us comes from the tech industry. And we don't really want to go to the real power CFO or the CEO of the organization because of our hunch. We don't want to rub someone on the wrong side. In case he has said, yes, he's really influential in the organization, he's going to do that for me. To me, that's a business call, guys, but you are putting so many things on risk in that kind of a scenario. You need to really, really understand who the real power is, who are all stakeholders who are involved internally in the decision making, and triangulate and bargain for power if it's required. One very classic example I'm going to share with you. I remember a few years back while working at Gartner, one of my leading account executives for the BFSI sector committed a deal, a large deal coming in the end of the quarter. Rather, it was the first quarter for me. Same time we were sitting over there, and he forecasted a deal which the CIO of a BFSI organization had committed that you come across by 20th and take the paperwork from me. Believe me, that 20th never came into play. When I went into the reviews and stuff itself, we realized that while the CEO had said yes, but he couldn't go and convince his CFO, and the real power was CFO, and we were never in front of that person. I'll continue on these examples in the subsequent sliders so that you can try to connect the dots together, but really important for you to work here. The next reason is the 9th reason, or the second reason what you want to put is, what is our prospect's reason to change? And in case you connect the dots just before this, guys, is the business issue. To me, the reason to change is that business issue. Is that decision critical, urgent, which is forcing them to change and change now? Business issue in value selling parlance is something which is measurable in nature, which is time bound in nature. And broadly, guys, this is more to do with the higher business objective with the organization is drive into. And to me, not all problems are worth solving. If you just walk into my office, I recently started to lead the business who value selling this part of the world. There are 10 different problems which needs to be solved. But am I going to invest my time and effort in all those problems? The answer is no. I'm just going to pick those top one or two, which is going to assist me to build this business and take it to the next level. So if those problems are getting solved, if the solution is going to be there, then definitely I'm going to get invested. So which means all problems are not worth solving. So you really need to get to the bottom to really understand what that business issue the client is going to solve. And believe me, in absence of a business issue, which I call it a vacuum of business issue, your solution is just a good to have, not a must have solution. The moment it is in the good to have bracket, believe me, that it's never going to close it down for you. And don't waste time. And if you're falling into, your solution is falling into good to have, not a must have, I think you have a challenge over there. So you have to be lucky in case the opportunity is closing for you in that scenario. More in today's world, because we have so many new technologies coming into play. And the biggest challenge in the newest technology things, which are more in the SaaS environment, that you need to really quantify, you need to really connect the dots of your solution with the business issue. So guys, very important for you to understand business issue and connect the dots with that. So do realize now, if you have opportunities, are you really connecting with the business issue? Is your solution differentiated? Very important point. This is when the boss's boss is going to say, yes, we are going to buy this solution. If your solution is not differentiated as compared to the rest of the things, you have a challenge. And you have to be candid with you when you're answering and thinking of this question in your head. Is your solution really differentiated? And guys, this could be, just give me a sec. Sorry, this could be situational question as well. Many times now, and being in value selling, I've always been getting an answer question from majority of the CXO team, which I'm trying to work, is how differentiated you are as compared to rest of the other organizations which is there. The answer to that is depending upon the person who I'm talking to. In case he is a CXO of an organization more bothered into the growing his team globally and expand globally, the answer is going to be that, look, we are a global organization. We have been delivering in 17 different languages, right from Mandarin to Japanese, to Italian, to French, to German. You think of any language, we have been delivering in that and our global capabilities. But in case the CEO is only bothered about India, my answer to going to be is that the capabilities which we have from a local perspective and how we are going to get integrated through his internal CRM and become part of his internal. So it all depends how that situation is and how you're going to lead with that. So really important, what we call it as a vision match differentiator. Guys, you have to lead in creating a differentiation for your services. To me, this is something so critical. In case this is not getting met, high likelihood that you're not moving ahead. The next one is, what's the personal motivation of, I think this is so important, so critical to me. As I shared back with you, we're all human beings. When we are taking a decision, definitely there has to be business value, but there has to be a personal element linked with that. What is in for the person you are talking to, for that power person. And believe me, guys, it's not always around money. It's not always about his promotion. In case he's going to execute on this project, he's definitely going to get laurels internally in the organization. Many times I have find organizations who are so risk averse that they don't want to take a decision. And I give you a very classic example. A few years back, we were working with one of the leading public sector undertaking in the utility space in India. And we realized it was a Gartner. Again, I spent 12 years and I will pick some of those examples from Gartner only. And we realized at that point in time that the personal motivation was very important for us to progress that deal to the next level. And I clearly remember that in a public sector undertaking, you know that you have to move through the tender route. And in case the tender route is there, you understand there are three bids needs to come into play. If those three bids are not coming, then the tender gets cut. It's a long process which is there. To cut the story short, we got approvals with the internal organization, right from the top management, the chairperson, the head of operations, the head of IT, that let's go through with a single party nomination. And there's a provision in the UPC guidelines which you have to follow to get a single party nominated. Everything was done, and we were very clear that we would be having this deal coming by the end of the quarter. I clearly remember this time of the year when we came to know that the file is not moving. And in a government department, the file has to move from bottom to top. And when we tried to understand where the pain was there, we realized the GMIT, who was a very important person, is getting retired in 1.5 years duration. And last thing that person wanted, that anything which is out of the blue, which has to go and take a different route, comes as a solution, because he never wanted in the last 1.5 years of his service anything pops up. While we had taken all the things in place, everything was by the books, but I think that was really, really important, and we missed the bus over there. So guys, something very important that you have to connect with the personal motivation, and this is which comes with practice. Moving ahead, is it worth it? I think this is really important. End of the day, the person you are in touch with, that person need to ensure that he's justifying that decision internally to him. The way you have articulated the business value proposition, in case that person is not justifying that internally in his organization, there's always going to be a lacuna over there. And from a business value, while it's a given fact, and I'm not going to hamper about that point in particular, that the value of your solution has to be beyond the money which is being spent over there. There's no question mark on that. But the justification internally to different stakeholders becomes equally important. And the first case which I shared with you, in that case, what happened when we were sitting in front of the CFO, that why he couldn't sign on the dotted line, we realized that CIO was not in a position to justify to the CFO that this solution is going to make that bigger a difference to the organization that he needs to be spending on that. Three things came into play, and which is very important for any CFO, head of finance. Three things he looks from a business perspective. First and the foremost, it is going to increase or enhance on the profitability. Second, the cash flow improves. Third thing, which is more of a business objective decision, than the numbers or the revenue of the organization has to increase. And the CIO was not in a position to connect the dots over there. And then we have to take a longer route to ensure that we worked upon that, justified to the CFO, and we had the solution, and then the order coming 6 months later. But I think that is really critical for you. So guys, we are at the halfway. I know I'm just running over time itself. We are 10 minutes short. Read any questions which you have for me, or you want to keep them for the last?
No, I think it would be great if you could answer one question from Anup, who said you mentioned about triangulation and negotiating for power.
Yeah.
How do we negotiate to get to a power?
Wow, I think it's a very important question, Anup. You worked with me for so many years, but it's a really important question, Anup. In any sales process, we all know that client always going to ask us for different things. There are different freebies they're looking forward for. They're looking forward for demos. They're looking forward for those POCs who are so critical for them. They're looking forward for some of the client referrals in the complete process. And many times you have to go beyond your line of duty to ensure that you're trying to make your client happy, the prospect happy. And in that line of duty, we always feel that you have an opportunity to ask that, look, okay, this seems really good. In case you're looking for the second POC, or you're looking for an additional demo for this box to come into play, more than happy to go back internally because the approval is going to come from my CEO. And I'm going to tell him that, look, the client is really keen to buy our proposition. He's looking for the second POC. And I have requested that we'll give you the second POC in case you're getting my CEO's meeting with the CFO or your CEO. So you have to be smart enough requesting and being in front of the real part in that organization while you're trying to offer him so many different things, freebies as a part of the complete discussion. So I think that is where I come from bargaining for power, because many times those people become a gatekeeper, not letting you go beyond them. But that becomes that an opportunity for you to bargain for the power. Anup, I think I answered your question.
Yes, please. Thanks, Rishi.
Thank you. Perfect, Rita. I think I should proceed, and then probably we can keep something for the last.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one question which we can answer a little bit later.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Rita. Do we understand our prospects' processes? Very, very important for us to understand that. But I'm sure there's no rocket science yet. But I've seen many times the deals getting scuttled, delayed because we don't understand the processes and we understand them at the very last minute. So I think this is really something which is important for us. Do we understand our prospect processes? So if you are on the negotiation table, you need to understand that what's going to happen beyond this. Once the technical team has taken decision, what's going to happen beyond that? Is the legal team going to get into review, procurement, security reviews? There's so many different things which comes into play over there. And I remember very clearly one point in time, we just missed the bus wherein we were not clear about our prospects' internal processes. Unfortunately, thing happened. We were working with a head of marketing for one of the leading tech organizations in India. The chief marketing officer was new over there. He committed that he's going to give us a statement of work, signed statement of work by 20th of March. And I clearly remember this was my classic case, my first deal at Gartner. And I was sitting in front of his office because it was a quarter one, Q1 bonus deal for me. My $10,000 were on stake. CMO committed to me, Rishi, come on 21st, take the paperwork. 22nd, I was sitting and he said, Rishi, sorry, I cannot give you the paperwork. It's going to take some more time. Because I never realized there was a mandatory cutoff time frame for my legal team internally on 10th of March. Because we are a client-facing organization, that team is going to now get busy in evaluating all our external-facing contracts. That definitely come to me as a shocker at that point in time. It was a different thing. I camped there and we were in a position to pull out that deal by the 31st of March. But you have to be really careful to really understand what are those processes which your clients have to have them internally. And then getting tied with this with the fifth one is that does our prospect also have the plan, which is their processes, everything which are, and he owns that. One, he also knows that and he also owns that. And the best account executive for me is the one who has the plan, which is a mutually agreed written plan. The three words to that: mutually written agreed plan with the client. In value selling parlance, we work with end results in mind. What is the final outcome which an organization is looking forward for when they are signing a contract or a deal with us? That could be in terms of revenue enhancement, that could be in terms of a bigger deal, that could be in terms of a better conversion rate. So what end of the day results they're looking forward for, and then we work backwards and put all the steps in place, right from signing the contract to before getting evaluation, all the processes, things coming into play. And there's a beautiful format which we have internally, and that is what we always recommend, that guys work with your clients to ensure that there's a proper plan right from the outcome which they're expecting that your solution is going to deliver. And from that time till the time the sign gets signed on the paperwork, how it's going to look like. It's really imperative that your client is owning that plan and he has given you a commitment in written. And some of you guys who have worked with me, I'm a firm believer. I never used to take any forecast for granted till the time there was a written agreed mutual plan coming along with the forecast deal which has got submitted. So guys, Do ensure that your client is owning that up and you are getting it agreed on the timelines with that. Is timing critical to our prospect? The way timing is so critical for every one of us. The deal which we want to sign, the deal which we intend to sign is going to take us through the line. That's so critical and important for us. Is that equally important for our client? And generally, guys, there are two things which happens at this point of the year. Well, some of my best account executives, they are supercharged, and the reason for the supercharged is because there is money on the table, because end of the quarter, end of the year, there are those marketing or their IT budgets which are getting exhausted. And if you are really, really creative, if you have your prospecting hat on your top, you can extend, you can outreach to as many people. Believe me, this time for this quarter, we are sitting on 25th. These next 5 to 6 days are super duper critical. I'm in your position. I'm going to enhance my prospecting at a 3x pace. I'm reaching out to maximum of my focus because I know super A's are in a position to pull out at least 2 or 3 opportunities which are not there. And the opposite is equally true. Many times at this point of the time, many organizations have mandate that they have to show better results. And I think majority of the public listed organizations have a real clear mandate on that. So you have to be really careful to understand, guys, if the client is not going to scuttle or push the deal to the next quarter. So please do ensure that you are working on that in parallel. Second is, are there unaddressed objections? Very, very important. I always believe that in an absence of information, the client is never ever going to take a call. He's never ever going to take a decision. So, which is very important that you're answering all the objections which are there in front of the client. Last week, one of the leading business schools requested me in case I can come and address the team on objection handlings. To me, objection fall into 3 different kitties, 3 different buckets. The first bucket is the normal question answers, which they want to get information about our products. Second bucket is when they're comparing us with the competition, which is a competitive objections. And the third bucket is which is a part of the negotiation tactics when they require extra information, additional information, when they're negotiating with us. And you need to really understand and categorize all those objections in these 3 different kitties and stuff itself. Now, all those questions in these 3 different buckets and try to answer that. And you have to be very transparent. You have to be very sincere when you are answering those objections. Never ever think that the client can pull out that information from somewhere. It's your responsibility to answer that. And when the objection falls into the third bucket, which is a negotiation bucket, my honest request to every one of you would be that you have to be smart over there. Segregate that objection and ask client, is there anything else which is bothering you, which we can answer for you? And then try to answer that objection in the best possible manner. But always remember the thumb rule. Any person who's confused, he doesn't have complete information, he's not going to buy. Okay, and that stands true for us personally also. And the last thing is, would we be blindsided? Oh man, this happens so many times. Just to ensure that I'm really feeling good. Client had said, okay, aa jayega deal, ho jayega, sab kuch ho jayega, Rishi, don't bother about it. Ask as many silly questions as you can ask. Who's going on chutti? What next? What can go wrong? Who's going on holiday? Is there a mandatory shutdown? Who knows, the 4th wave of COVID comes into place? Something can really go wrong. And the biggest challenge is we shouldn't be having those surprises coming on the 31st of March. We should know all those things as of today. One thing our CEO Julie always says that, and I'm really fan of that statement, is that surprises are good for birthday parties. Surprises are never ever good for the deals which are getting forecasted, at least in the sales kitty. So guys, no surprises coming to you. Ask as many silly questions as you can think of. Stuff definitely happens. So you have to be careful on that. But that, guys, let me recap. These are the top 10 objections, or questions which you have to think aloud. The checklist which is there, put all your opportunities into this bucket and see where you have an opportunity to make a difference. Before we recap, what can you do today? Think of the top deals you need to close out as of today. You have to be honest when you're answering these questions. Again, I say you have to be super honest when you're answering these questions to yourself. I'm a firm believer that we have to look out for others' perspective. It could be first the internal perspective, the person you confine in. It could be a pre-sales person, your manager, your consultant, someone who can really give you an outside perspective. So always look for that. I know that there are leaders on this call. And guys, my sincere request to all the leaders is that beat any quarter which is there, one of the best practices is always ensure that you have war rooms created where you have the think tank, people outside your own team standing in. It could be one of your best in the seasoned account executives. It could be head of pre-sales, or it could be some other person who are part of that win room or the war room, and let account executive bring their opportunities with a sincere approach of assisting them. It should not be an opportunity to inspect. The moment you're saying that we're going to inspect, no one is going to bring that opportunity to you. But in case you are positioning and communicating that, guys, our interest is to ensure that we provide you ample support with our experiences and we're going to provide extra help, bring those opportunities, let's brainstorm what we can do differently. People are going to love it and they're going to bring those opportunities over there. So guys, rejoice your discovery today. Understand what are the missing components in your complete kitty. What can go wrong? No surprises on the 31st. Let the gaps should come out today, and you're more focused on only those opportunities which you feel can close. Because when you go through this complete checklist, you will realize that there are certain opportunities which doesn't require focus and push. So guys, do focus on that. Okay, so go out and fill the gaps, and my best wishes to you for finishing the quarter with a high. There is a grit, there's a determination in this picture, and we are in sales because of our grit and determinations. Guys, all the very best to you. With that, Rita, open for questions in case we have. I know we are over time. We're 2 minutes over time. More than happy to take 1 or 2 questions, and then probably we can answer the others later.
Yeah. So I have one question from Kabir, and Kabir is asking if there is a delay and your champion is not able to convince stakeholders, how do you go past him?
Yeah, I think it's a real question which is there. 2 things, and it's a very practical thing which happens, that there is a delay and your champion is not in a position to go beyond that. First thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to put my question hat on top of it, and I really need to understand why the delay is there, what is holding it back, what is going wrong, what can be done differently, who are the people internally involved who can change the decision to make from no to yes. So we need to really understand and get back to the bottom, which I always call it, the discovery hat always needs to be on throughout the complete process. And we call it, and this has to be activated through our OPC questioning framework, open and probing and confirming questions. So get into that confirmation from the client. What is something which is holding back? What is the reason behind that? Second is, as I said, that there is, he could be not in a position to justify internally the way you have done that. Or there are some other important decisions which would have taken, which have pushed the things to the back. So 2 things happens into that. In case you can go back, bargain for power, go back internally to really understand that the example which I gave to you was that CFO was not convinced. He was the real power. And there were 10 other things on his kitty, and he wanted to put the budgets in a similar kind of a balance. So go back and check in case we can bargain for power and request for a meeting beyond that. Once you have all the questions, in case you can uncover that. So I think that is the first thing. And second thing is really understand that you can be more creative around constructing the deal which can come in now. Could be something around payment terms. Once you have really have the answers to some of those questions which is there. So I think it's a real problem which is there. In case champion is not in a position, you need to really understand why he's not in a position. Is he new in the role? If he's old in the role, has he real veto internally? He's that real powerful internally? Can he justify the way you are articulating the proposition? There's so many different things. So get back to the bottom, get back into your discovery habit to really understand where the problem lies, and then try to answer that in a different connotation. Yeah, Rita.
Thank you, Rishi. I've got one last question before we end. And this comes from Anoop. Thank you, Anoop. Thank you, Kabir. From the top 10 questions checklist you have shared, if you need to pick top 2 to 3, which are really imperative, which would those be?
Anoop, to me, I think everything is important. Again, I said it's a situational thing because depending upon where you are in the deal, like the Kabir rightly highlighted, if the deal is not moving beyond the person, what could be wrong? Are we at the power? Is your solution differentiated? There's so many different things comes over there. So to me, there is all the reasons are equally important. But in case I have to pick really 2 or 3, I think one where I've seen maximum opportunities getting scuttled or delayed. First is we are not at power, which is really important to me. Second is the lack of creating that vision match differentiation for various reasons. That also becomes a challenge to me. These are 2 things which I have always felt can become a bottleneck for you. Now I'm sure rest all factors you have to put depending upon the situation which is there. But I think one is the lack of power. We're not in front of the power which is there. And is our solution really differentiated and we are articulating the way it requires to that? So I think these are a couple of the things which we can always work it better. I hope it.
Thank you, Rishi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. If that is all, Rishi, you might want to conclude our session today.
Thank you, Rita. Really appreciate. Thanks first to you to ensure that you're standing in and along with me and spending this time. As I do hope I would be in a position, or I could have been in a position to assist you. Do not hesitate to reach out to me or to Rita in case we are in a position to assist you somewhere. These are our details. We are on LinkedIn. You have our phone numbers, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. And as I said, grit, determination is the most important thing. We are in sales because of our grit and determination. So go all out and make a difference. And here are my best wishes to you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Rishi. I'll connect you back later.
Sure, Rama. We have to connect. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.